Hello, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Carole. This video I'm going to talk about my ongoing experience with the Lutterloh system. This video is going to be in two parts. I'm first of all going to talk about my first ever men's make using this system. And the second part of the video, I'm going to answer a few questions that I always get asked when I make a Lutterloh video. Now, I will stress, I am not an expert with the Lutterloh system at all. I am not selling it. I started using it about 2 years ago. I think I've made about 6 garments from it now. But every time I do a video, I do get asked the same sort of questions. So I'll try and answer those for you and talk a bit more about this system. This is a system that my mum bought in the late 1970s. She gifted it to me, and because I do sew, and obviously I sew lots of patterns, the big full patterns and indie patterns, it's fun to have a go at every now and again. But yeah, first of all, I'm going to talk about my first ever men's pattern. So in addition to sewing for myself and my grandchildren, I also sew every now and again for my husband. And I'm always on the lookout for a good t-shirt pattern for him. Now, in one of these supplements I had, this is supplement 310. I've actually written there, autumn 2018. There was this basic man's t-shirt. It is quite a slim fitting one, I would have said, from that, but I really wanted to give that a go. I'll put a little bit of footage in now. I'm normally, with my Lutterloh videos, I do show how I draw it all out, but because I've done that many times before, if you're interested in that, I'll put a link to one of my previous videos in the description box, and then you can see how you draw it out. It's great fun, I have to say. But I'll put a tiny bit of footage in now of when I drew out the pattern. I've gathered together all the stuff that I may need, and I'm going to be making this very simple t-shirt here. So if you look at the code, it's number 38. Look on the back, and here we have number 38, and those are the pieces that I will need to cut out. So that's obviously going to be a neckband, you've got a sleeve, a front and a back. Now what I do to make this slightly easier and be able to see the numbers easier, I actually photocopy this so I don't destroy the sheet from the file, and I enlarge it slightly. Now, I've only done it slightly, but that just makes it a little bit clearer for me. I think I did it 120%. Now, that makes absolutely no difference because what you're measuring from is from the centre point. So you're not measuring the distance from there to there, so it's not going to make any difference at all. So all my pieces ready. I'm going to start mapping it out. So all the pieces are now matched out. I normally just check that the side seams the seams that meet have been drawn out the same, and they have. This is the sleeve piece. I'm very unsure on the shape of this one for the time being, but I have just checked and that's the same length, and it looks kind of square. It's just the shape of it is kind of odd, but not sure. So front and back and done. The neckband I've cut. I haven't cut the full length of it. It tells you exactly the measurements to do it, and luckily I've got these squares, 5mm squares, and you can see the centimetres there. So I just normally do it, I cut it on the fold. I don't cut the massive long strip. So that's half of the piece that I should have cut out. So yeah, that's all cut out now. I've added the seam allowance, as I've said in other videos, and now to cut out the fabric. As with any t-shirt pattern, it was easy to do because you just had the front, the back, the sleeve and the neckband cut out. So as you can see, I did all that, and obviously I then went on to make up the t-shirt, and here it is. Now with Lutterloh, and I'll probably go back into that in a minute when I talk about the questions, The idea is you use two measurements. So on the woman, it would be a bust measurement and a hip measurement, or you can use the upper bust, but that's a whole different kettle of fish. So obviously on my husband, I used the chest measurement and the hip measurement. Now, it was the same, which completely threw me, because obviously on us, we're going to have two different figures. But for him, it was exactly the same. So that meant actually drawing out the pattern was easy. Normally, everything above the waist, you would use the chest measurement or bust measurement, and everything below the waist, you use the hip measurements. And you would have to change the number where the pin is on the tape. I didn't have to do that. So I just used one measurement, and I was convinced that it would never come out right. Even when I had the pieces cut out, they weren't kind of symmetrical. They didn't sort of go straight down in the rectangle. They were slightly tilted in. So I really, really did not think this t-shirt was going to work out. In actual fact, it is the best fitting t-shirt he's ever had. I will put some photos of him in it. I mean, this is a beautiful piece of cotton jersey I actually got from Minerva, and I have to say it is beautiful. But yeah, the sleeves are a nice shape. They're not too wide. It just fits spot on for him. So much so, he has put in an order for about 4 more in different colours. I'm really, really pleased with it. I will definitely use this again. The only thing I changed was initially I felt when I cut out the neck pattern that this was going to be too low on him. So I raised it up by about 3/4 of an inch. So that is all I changed. The neckband piece, they have you cut. Obviously, they just have you cut a certain amount for all sizes, and it is up to you to kind of work out how much you need. And you do that thing where you work out the percentage. Some people use a different percentage depending on much stretch. All I do is I roughly measure around there, and I kind of cut a piece, and I stretch it and see how it's going to go, pin it roughly, and any alterations then I change it. I don't go too much on the exact measurement. I just kind of work out how it's going to land, and it's not too bad. It's a tiny bit saggy there, but it's not too bad at all. I'm so pleased. I managed to find a t-shirt pattern that fits in. Doesn't look too old-fashioned. The sleeves are a great length. I think I did cut about 1 inch off the bottom. My husband's 5'9", so not particularly tall, so maybe it's drafted for a much taller gentleman. But all in all, I am really, really happy. Now, will I be brave enough one day to go on and make him a pair of trousers? I may well do. I have made him a pair of trousers before and shorts. But yeah, so just to reiterate, that was supplement 310. I am sure, though, they've probably done lots of other men's patterns very similar in the past. So I'm now going to go on to some of the questions I always get asked about this system. As I said, this system is quite old. It is still got the French curve, it's got the tape and the original pins. And the thing about this, it's got these fabulous designs from the 70s in here. It's just brilliant, some of them, absolutely brilliant. But what I tend to do is get my hands on any supplements that come out. Now, I don't buy them all the time. I don't, and I've got most of these actually, I've got sort of backdated versions, and I keep them in a separate file here. So I think I've probably got enough now to keep me going on most designs of things that I want. So how do I get these up-to-date supplements? I just order mine direct online from Lutterloh. They do take a while to come because I think they come from Germany. But on the website, they very often do some good offers. Buy 3 supplements, get sort of a 4th free sort of thing, or discounted. You can see on there all the supplements that they've got going back, if they've got them available, and you can flick through and see every single page. So it's not like you just see the front cover. So I find that really brilliant, especially if I'm looking for a certain design, like I was looking for a t-shirt. Which measurements do you use? Now, the idea with Lutterloh is you use two measurements, as I said before, so the bust and the hips, but a lot of people do use three measurements, and I have found for me that is better too. Because I've got quite narrow shoulders, everything up here I use the upper bust measurement, then I change it to the bust, then I change it to the hip. So if you've not seen this before, this is where you have these holes and you stick a pin in relative to the measurement, and then you draw it out from there. Another question that I get asked is it's not in inches. Now I know a lot of Europe, obviously we're all in centimeters, but in America you're still in inches. That does not matter. It does not matter. You don't have to do any kind of translation between inches and centimeters, because this obviously is the Lutterloh tape, and on the back is a centimetre measuring tape. So all you would have to do is just measure yourself with this, and then you've automatically got the measurements there. So you've got a centimetre tape on the back of this. So it's not going to matter. You don't have to translate. As long as you've got the tape, you can measure yourself in centimetres. You've got the magic numbers that you need to use. I'm very lucky in the fact that many of the patterns don't really have to be adaptive for me, obviously that I've done the narrow shoulders. Some people do full bust adjustments and things like that. Because I don't tend to do those on mainstream patterns, I find I don't have to, but a lot of people do. Now, there is an amazing Facebook group for the Lutterloh system. Every time I do a video, I always try and steer people in that direction, because there are so many experts on there that really know what they're talking about. And I mean, they make some fantastic garments on there. So it's a good kind of social area. There's lots of questions on there that people have asked in the past. It's a great source of information, and obviously just at our fingertips for free. So I would always say, if you've got any specific questions, I would head over to the Facebook Lutterloh system. I think there are two groups, equally as good. The one thing about the Lutterloh system is when you've drawn out your patterns, there is no seam allowance. So it is up to you to add the seam allowance of your choice. And for me, that is always 1.5 centimetres or 5/8 of an inch. I ordered these quite a long time ago from Stitch Buzz, and this is what I'm always asked. So they do, I think I bought them on Etsy via Stitch Buzz, and this is the 1.5 centimetre French curves. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful things to have. So you would just follow the lines you've originally done, and obviously add your seam allowance. So I always get asked about those, and I have to say they are really, really useful. When you're drawing out the points, somebody asked me, how do you know how to use a French curve? The answer is, I really don't know. But what I do know about Lutterloh is you have to have at least 3 dots in a line to be able to draw. So they say line up at least 3 dots, and then you've got the line. And the rest of it is kind of common sense. You kind of know how to smooth it out. But yeah, I've got no proper training on how to use a French curve. I just remember what sort of patterns look like normally and the shapes that I'm going for, and I use that. Something I learned very recently is that you can swap out sleeves, for example, or collars from one design to another. I recently came across a YouTube video on how to do that, so swapping one sleeve for another. So I'm going to find that, and I'll put the link down below in the description box. But that's something, I mean, obviously we do it a lot with our big 4 patterns. You can swap the sleeves around, but it's interesting to know that you can do that with any of the Lutterloh designs. In the video where I made this version, I said that I had photocopied and made the diagram slightly larger. As I said, that it does not matter in the numbers you're going to use, so you can do that, because sometimes you might have a design, for example, like this, which is quite chock-a-block with numbers and all sorts of things. If you got a photocopier and you can enlarge it, that's going to help you considerably. Just reading all these symbols mean, and it will not affect the way you draw it out with the measuring tape. So that's a handy thing to know. How much fabric will you need? The idea of these figures down at the bottom actually tell you the width of the fabric and how much you're going to need, I think, for a kind of mid-range obviously not a petite size or an extra large size, but kind of a mid-range size. I'd say about a 14, 16. And I think they're geared for kind of ladies of about 5'8", but that gives you a rough idea of the amount of fabric. Of course, if you've got a similar design and you've got a big full pattern or just an indie pattern or something like that, or even going online, if you've got a similar design, you can see how much that a commercial pattern would actually request you to buy, and that'll give you a good idea. There are so many symbols and letters and things on here, and at the end of every supplement they always have an index to all the different designs. Also what figure that the pattern would suit, whether it be a slim figure or a fuller size figure. They actually do a whole set of supplements, classic supplements for the fuller size figure, and I think they also do one for petite as well now, as well as children's and men's. So I think that covers the questions that I always get asked, and I will say once again, I am not selling the system. It's just, I know when I got this system from my mum, I really didn't know where to start. And YouTube was my saviour, because there are a few channels out there that do show how to draw it, what to use it for, and things like that. All I'm trying to do is just kind of spread the word, spread the information out there. Would I buy the system if I hadn't been gifted it? Is the question I always get asked, and it's a really good one. I'm not sure I would have known about it unless, say, I went to a kind of sewing exhibition where it was demonstrated, and then yes, I probably would have bought it, because I love mapping out. I really enjoy mapping out the patterns. Yes, it's a bit time consuming sometimes, but certainly for basic things like this, it didn't take me that long at all. Certainly no longer than, say, downloading a PDF pattern and plotting it all and cutting it out. So yeah, it doesn't take that much longer. So would I buy it? Yes, I probably would, because it is good fun. However, I do have a lot of background sewing knowledge. I'm not an expert. I've just sewn a lot of things. I also have a good guide if I ever need it, and this is a complete book, guide to sewing, and this has more or less any technique in there that you might need, and that is something you definitely need alongside the Lutterloh system, because apart from very basic instructions, there are no individual garment making instructions. You've got the A and B and C, and you sort of match A with A and B with B, but that's it. No complicated instructions. So having that, it is good fun. As I said, I'm not selling it, but I'm just spreading the word on how to do it. Because if you have that system, or you picked it up in a charity shop or a thrift shop and you wanted to give it a try, definitely give it a try. Try something simple. Not necessarily even start with doing a garment. You could literally just start with just mapping out one piece and see how you get on. And you'll be surprised how successful you can actually be. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room today for the Lutterloh video and the chat. Don't forget to check out any other YouTube videos on Lutterloh, because the more information you can get when doing the system, the better. As you can see, I'm very pleased with the male t-shirt that I made, and I will definitely be making some more for him, because he says, as I said before, he says it's the best fitting t-shirt he's ever had. So I definitely need to make some more. I hope I answered some of your questions that you may have had about the system, and look forward to seeing you again in my sewing room very shortly, if it's for #FridaySews or any other video. Thank you again, and I will see you shortly. Goodbye for now.